So today, again, the manual, you can follow along and fill in any blanks as we go. I'll highlight those. There's not as many today. And if you've forgotten to download it, I've popped it in the chat area as well. And what I might actually ask everyone to do too is if you could mute, just so we get, a nice recording as well. And the slides will indicate the relevant page number in red at the very top up here. So we'll know what we're talking about when it relates to the manual. So I've also mentioned yesterday that as we go through breakthrough, what we typically do is whenever we do a breakthrough is we often create a really good discount for our training programs. So we've done exactly the same thing. And if you wanted to do any of our trainings, our NLP prac, our master prac, our speaker training, our trainer training, if you wanted to do any of those, we've discounted them. They've already been discounted on the website. But for you, not the general public, but for you, we've discounted them by an extra 30%. So the way that you do it, for example, the life coach and NLP practitioner training, which is normally 5960, is right now it's down to 3960. But if you add it to your cart, and what you do is you apply that word breakthrough. I think you can do it in caps and lowercase. I think it's the same. I haven't tried it, so I'm not sure. So if you do have any challenges, let me know. And so you click on the cart, and then when you click on the cart, all the trainings are there, on that particular tab at the top. And then when you get to the cart, you get to this apply coupon. And the price, of course, is the discounted price of 3960. But when you apply the breakthrough in the coupon area and then click apply coupon, what it'll do is it'll take a further $1,188 off. So it comes down to 2772. So it discounts it even further, but you've got to use that breakthrough. And that, of course, finishes tonight at midnight if you wanted to continue your training. So today we're going to go from 1 o'clock to 4. And it's breakthrough day. So today is essentially an extension of yesterday. Yesterday was really about getting to learn about perception. And today is about actually creating a shift in your life so that your life can start to take a different course, more likely a course that you want to direct it to. So let's start with your words, because your words come from your neurology, and your neurology predicts essentially your future. So your words, if we start to look at, where do words come from? They come from essentially beliefs, because beliefs at the end of the day become your thoughts. Whatever you believe becomes your predominant thought. And some of the conversation that, Nathan and I had at the very beginning was very much about that. What happens is we have certain beliefs, they become our predominant thoughts. Our predominant thoughts become our words. Our words then become our actions, and our actions become, therefore, our habits, because we're doing them on a regular basis. Our habits, of course, become our values, and then our values ultimately become our destiny. And I'm borrowing, of course, from Gandhi here. So basically, our beliefs at the end of the day really are either convenient or inconvenient, because there's a little word in the middle of beliefs that I think really gives what beliefs actually are away, and that is the word lie. Your belief could be very solid in one direction, believing that something's absolutely true, but all of a sudden you hear some new evidence or new information or new facts, and your belief can completely flip. So I don't see beliefs as being right or wrong, because the truth is, as we saw yesterday, beliefs actually don't come from facts. We think they're facts, but what they are is they come from our conditioning, and our conditioning creates our perception, and our perception creates an altered reality. So I want you to think of these phrases. Actually, sorry, I just need to stop share for a moment and just check to see whether I added sound. No, I didn't, but here we go. I will add sound now. So can everyone still see the slides? Yeah, great. So I'm going to give you 3 affirmations. What I want you to do is feel in to yourself, feel in with yourself and get a sense of, do you feel like you've totally got this or you haven't? And measure your resistance. Measure, are you very resistant to this phrase? Are you not resistant to this phrase at all? Are you very aligned with this phrase? Or are you somewhere in between? So check your temperature with this. So what's your resistance to this statement? So here's the statement. I am the master of my money. I'm the master of my money choices. Therefore, I am the master of my wealth. Check in with that. Where are you in the context with this particular statement? And if you are totally in alignment with this statement, it means that you're making good money, you're probably saving good money, you're investing good money, and you feel like you've really got that covered and you're in a really good space in the context of your actual wealth. So just kind of measure in with yourself there with that particular statement. The next statement, now, of course, give yourself a score from 0 to 100. 100 is extreme resistance, 0 is no resistance. So on your manual on page 10, it gives you that opportunity to write down what your number might be if you want to record yourself here in this statement. So the next statement is, what's your resistance to this? I'm the master of my food choices, my body and my mind. Therefore, I am the master of my health. So I am the master of my food choices. I am the master of my body and my mind. Therefore, I am the master of my health. Again, give yourself a measure from 0 to 100. 100, extreme resistance, 0, no resistance, or you're somewhere in between. So these statements give you a sense of where you are in context with your health, where you are in context with your wealth. Or you could even ask a more general statement. So what is the most common thread in these statements? Let me give you another one. I am the master of my life choices. Therefore, I am the master of my destiny. Again, give yourself a score from 0 to 100. So we're kind of continuing on from yesterday, getting an awareness of where we're at right now. Where are we specifically at in our lives, in our health choices, in our wealth choices? You could do this in our relationships, socially, in our fitness. You could start measuring all sorts of areas of your life. You could look at a Dharma wheel or a wheel of life and start to get a sense of, where am I hurting? Where am I not mastering my life? And if you are not mastering your life in any of those areas and you want to, then the real key is to start looking at your feelings. Start with your feelings, because your feelings are essentially give you an idea of where you're at in that context. And then you can take it up to your head and start to say, well, what does that mean? What strategy am I not utilizing? What words really don't resonate with me? What's not working in my life? So when I personally looked at this particular resistance to this statement, I am the master of my money. and I'm the master of my money choices. Therefore, I am the master of my wealth. In this particular context, as I shared yesterday, I felt bad. I felt really bad in that space because that was the area that I was really struggling. And so the thing that we have to understand is that our feelings are just our nervous system, which are really telling us that we've got some pain in an area of our lives. That's all feelings actually are. Feelings are not facts. They're just feelings. That's all they are. And as we spoke of yesterday, as we're moving ourselves forward, aiming to really create some success in any particular area of our lives, we have to acknowledge that it is going to be a bit scary. We are going to naturally feel scared if we haven't done something that we're about to do that's very new. We haven't done it before. So we have to understand that feelings are not facts, and they're not our fate either. They are just a nervous system telling us that we're struggling or we're having some challenge. And by the way, the word that I just used then, struggling, that again is a metaphor. You know, it's a metaphor that we come out in our language and we'll say we're struggling. The truth is, no one is actually struggling. But if we create it as a metaphor and we keep telling ourselves that over and over again, well, then we're going to ensure that our body, our life, our actions, our behaviors, our values, our beliefs are all going to conform with that idea. So if we think about feelings, at the end of the day, they do have a purpose. And our feelings at the end of the day is to essentially stop us from walking off a cliff and doing something, what we spoke about yesterday, as being foolish. You know, that we don't want to look, sound, be foolish. But what we do is we overreact, we over-dramatize, we over-create, over-stimulate that, you know, things like going for a new job is like walking off a cliff. It's not. But we over-dramatize in that context. Starting a business, this is not a valid fear. You know, we will not die if we start a business. Sure, you might be scared, you might be feeling nervous, you might be worrying that you're going to lose your money, or you're going to lose your house, or your life, or whatever it might be by starting a business. But the truth is, it's not a valid fear. You know, with a good strategy, you could start a business as a side hustle and, you know, reduce your risk, but you could still do it. You're not going to die if you're scared of starting a business. In fact, you should feel scared if you're going to start a new business, but it shouldn't stop you. You know, if you're going to change your career, at the end of the day, that's not a valid fear either. It's when I say it's not a valid fear, what I really mean is you shouldn't be investing in the fear. You should be investing in the courage to get yourself to do that thing that you ultimately want to do. So if we think about the process of change, you know, and I've given this a huge amount of thought, you know, this is my life. You know, at the end of the day, I've invested 23 years in working out how do I help people to change. Because I coach, I teach, I write books on the topic, I, you know, get interviewed on podcasts in the media and so forth. So this is my thing. How do we change? So what I've done over the years is I've looked at how do we actually change? And I've put it into a series of phases. So the first phase that most of us are in is most of us are completely unconscious that we're limited in a particular area of our life. You know, that we don't have a skill, or we don't have an ability, or we don't have knowledge, or we don't have resources, or we don't have the network, or we don't have something. So that's phase one, you know, and you could call that unconscious incompetence if we look at learning. So phase one is that we're completely unconscious, that we're limited. But of course, what happens is we get to phase two, which is our feelings. And phase two only really happens when our limits come to a point of feeling. In other words, we feel that we are limited. So this really reveals our limits, whatever limits we might have, our confidence, our self-esteem, our skills, our abilities. So that's phase two. So then we get to phase three. So in other words, we're driving our car and all of a sudden the warning light comes on. So that tells us that we have a challenge. We have a problem. And so now what we do is we take those feelings and we emote those feelings. In other words, we create whatever those feelings might be. And those feelings quite often, and frustration, by the way, is one word, it can turn into lots of different words because we have lots of different emotions. So in other words, when we get to phase three, it will turn to frustration or shame or guilt or blame or sadness or anger. It'll turn to an emotion. So what we do with that emotion determines what happens next. So phase four, we become conscious of the actual cause of the pain. What is the actual cause of the pain? So in other words, it's moved from unconscious to feelings to emotion, but we still don't know what it is yet. So it now turns to absolute thinking and focus. So now we start to investigate what is the actual cause of the pain? What is causing the pain? What's setting off the light on our dashboard? Then we move to phase five. Now, this is where things start to move to some sort of level of traction. So in other words, we're seeking help. We're wanting to remedy the pain. So at this particular point, we might look for a mentor, we might look for a coach, we might go to friends, we might go to family. We might start talking to them about what's going on in our life, in our business, in our career, or our health, whatever it might be. And we're starting to get a sense of where do we get the help. And then finally, we get to phase six, which is our solution. And we alleviate the pain, we get resolve. Now, of course, there can be other phases that happen within these phases, and that can be, have you ever been driving down the road and the warning light comes on in your car? Now, some people will pull over, open up the manual, or have conscious awareness of why that light is going and know exactly what they need to do. They might miss phase three. They might not get frustrated about it, but chances are there will be some emotion. Damn, I'm going to be late for that meeting, or jeepers, why now? And there may be some pain. And then they'll get to the cause of the pain, a hose is burst on the car, there's water leaking out of the car, and that's why the heating has overheated, and now you go get your mechanic, or you get your part and you change the hose, or whatever you do to get to that solution. But some people, what they'll do is they'll get to phase two, and what they'll do is they'll put their head in the sand. They'll deny. They'll pretend it doesn't exist. A little bit like something that we know as a situation in health. We know that a lot of people, when they've got pain in their body, their first reaction is denial. They might wince, or they might, feel that pain, but they'll deny. And when they deny, of course, what we end up is what I shared with you yesterday, which is this fractal time, that the pain might disappear completely, and then it hits a tension point in fractal time, and then the pain starts again. And then they might deny again, and then pain diminishes, and then it hits pressure again, and then starts again, but it gets worse and worse and worse and worse until, some serious help is required. So I want you to think about where you are in context with some challenge that just keeps happening in your life. Perhaps a challenge that you really want to shift today. What is that challenge? And the question is, what phase are you in? Are you at the feelings phase, but you're denying? You're not doing anything about it. Are you at the frustration phase, or the emotion phase? You're angry about it, or sad about it, or shameful, or disappointed, or guilty, or some particular emotion? Or are you aware now of the cause of the pain? You actually know what's causing it, and it's time to do something or not do something? Are you at the point of seeking help about it? Or are you just on the cusp of a solution, or chances are you're not beyond it because it's still a pain? Does this make sense to you guys? Yeah? So what I'm going to get you to do is, this is going to be our first breakout for today. I want you to think about what is your biggest fear, your biggest limit or block, and what phase are you in, and why? And then maybe even complete some of the questions on page 11. So this is going to be a really quick breakout. So let me create the breakout room, and let's see, I'll create 5 rooms. So there we go. So we've got one group of 3, and everyone is in a group of 2. So I want you to get into this group, have a bit of a conversation, because I want to get you focused on what you want to create the biggest shift on, so that when we get to the exercises, you've got a very clear idea of what you want to shift in your life. Maybe chunk it up. In other words, it's about money, it's about health, it's about your career, it's about wealth, it's about fitness, it's about relationships, it's about friends or social or whatever it is. Maybe chunk it up, then chunk it down. Why? Why is money an issue? Or why is wealth an issue? Or why is health an issue? And then chunk it down even further. See whether you can get down as far as you can to actually pinpoint the problem, which means that you'll move right up to phase 4 or phase 3 at least. So I'm going to open up these rooms, and actually I'm going to give you just a little bit more. I'm going to give you 12 minutes to work it out. Okay, so here we go. All rooms are now open. I will pause.
You haven't finished.
You didn't finish.
Stop this.
Sorry.
We're talking about me, or just in the heart of the problem.
You were at the crux of it, and then all of a sudden it pulled you out.
Yeah. This is what happens. See, this is what happens. Exactly what happens.
This is what happens to you in life. You just almost get there, and then life pulls you out.
Yeah,
gotcha.
There you go.
That was a really cool session. It was great.
Yeah.
Cool. What did you get? What did you learn?
Well, I was nearly getting something now. When you put me. Well, Phil was asking me what would be my limitation, and I was saying that I've struggled make the commitment to myself, and I said the limiting beliefs that I think I have behind that is that I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
not good enough to do this.
Cool. So if we put this into a strategy, basically what happens is opportunity shows itself. then you know what you need or want to do, but you have this little sentence or a phrase that says, I'm not good enough to do that. And then what you do is you don't commit.
Yeah, and yeah, I don't fully commit. So like I was explaining, I can maybe be, you know, a couple of 2 or 3 weeks
Yeah.
doing something, and then something happens, and that's it.
Yeah.
I go back.
Something happens, or do you make something happen?
Good question.
I make something happen. You know,
So-
it's yeah, sometimes it's not something that I do, you
Yeah.
know, but it happens in my life.
Yeah, but you give it meaning. So you're the one that gives it the perceptual meaning. You're the one that says, oh, that's going to stop me from doing X. And so therefore you go, right, no commitment. Yeah? Okay. What would happen to your life if you took something away or added something? Let me give you an example. What would happen if you took away that statement where you keep saying, I'm not good enough? Or what would happen if you added something in where you said, if I'm scared, it means I need to commit 100%?
What would happen?
Yeah, what would happen?
But I'll hopefully commit to it.
Well, what if you took the word hopefully out?
I commit to it.
Yeah, and what would happen if you became your words?
Well, I will do what I need to do to where I want to go, you know, to
Okay.
do my coaching and all that. Yeah.
So let's just measure strategy A, let's call it, which was your original strategy. And let's now measure strategy B, which is something taken out or something added or both. And let's say your success is 100%. So out of 100%, what would strategy A be? Just give it a number. Don't think about it too long. Just give me your first number.
5.
5%. Okay, what about strategy B with the addition and the deletion? First number, don't think about it.
50.
Okay, it's a big difference. Big difference, just, you know, utilizing that as a strategy. So it's a little bit like, you know, and we've heard this before, you know, how we do one thing is how we do everything. So basically, if you start doing that in your life, could you imagine what would happen? Like, you've just increased it by 45%. You've gone from 5% to 50%.
Yeah.
And then
It's,
no, after you,
you go.
please.
yeah, and I can imagine in my head, like, for example, I can imagine myself in an event and public speaking and, you know, promoting what I'm doing and, you know, having clients and you know, I had the experience of having clients and being successful, you know.
Yeah.
And, but it's now that I've got to a point that I'm moving forward, it's like I'm not taking the steps. I don't know if I think maybe it's going to happen quickly or what. It's like I'm not taking the steps. And I think, or if I take one step, it's not good enough, that step.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it's like if I'm doing something, it's never good enough.
Yeah. Okay. So in that context, sorry, you were about to say one more thing.
No.
Okay. In that context, when we get to the very first exercise where I'm going to be asking you all to get rid of an old decision that's holding you back and put in a new decision that you are now going to honor, I think one decision that would really help you enormously is get rid of that decision that you're not good enough. Because your behavior is just proving it over and over again.
And I think about that.
Yeah, stop thinking about it then.
Mm.
You know, I mean, thoughts become destiny. If we really understand this, thoughts do ultimately, or our words ultimately become our destiny. So stop telling yourself those things. Look, one thing, if I can really ram this piece home, when I used to do breakthroughs, I can remember the very first breakthrough I did. My mentor was telling me, get out there, do it, do it, do it. Sure, my mentor had done it a million times, traveled the world doing events. So in my head, I thought, well, it's okay for you. You do it all the time. But me, I'm not good enough. So that's what I took to my coach. And I said to my coach, I'm really scared to do this. I remember almost being in tears in this session, like I really felt like I wanted to cry. And so if I can give you, like if I can be really open and honest with you here, this went back. I remember the session very distinctly. And this is something that not a lot of people know. It's not something I'm incredibly proud of. But when I first worked for News Limited, I started my new job in October. And in December, we were having our we were moving from Flinders Street in Melbourne, moving to South Bank. And so they decided to have a really big Christmas party. And they got entertainers and all of that. And I was on the table number 1 with the managing director, with the general manager, with, the CFO, all the head honchos. I didn't think I was a head honcho. And I sat at that table, and even though I put on a brave face and all of this nonsense, inside, I wanted to get off that table as quickly as I possibly could. And honestly, I just wanted to run out of that room, go into the laneway. I even had it in my mind where I was going to go into this laneway, go at the very, very back and cry my eyes out. And I'm in a suit and looking like an executive on the executive table. But, inside my feelings were really, like I was trying to hold myself together on that table, the entire time. I wanted to drink. I wanted to drink a lot, because I actually thought that drinking was going to help me to build my bravado. But, I also knew that if I kept drinking, I was going to start slurring my words and I was going to look like an idiot. In the first, I'd only been in the job for, just a few months, not even really. And here I was at this table and God, I felt like a fraud. I felt like I didn't earn the right to be on that table. Now, this is the thing we all feel. We all feel this, but they're just feelings. So the most important thing is to get inside here and get those things out of you, and, and in all honesty, many of you are NLP trained. They're the only tools that really can actually get in there and get those things out of you. Because if you don't get them out of you, they stay part of you. And, I don't know whether you've looked, but we're all getting older. We are all getting older. And the thing is, my big breakthrough happened when I was 42. For 42 years of my life, I was anxious, depressed, I was sad, Mr. Sad Sack, and this was my life, and then of course I learned NLP, my story, and I went, right, get everything. I want to change everything. And I really did. I wanted to change every single part of me. And I would come to events like this, other people's events, And I would see the person on the stage, and I used to think, oh, I'd love to be able to do that. But there was another part of me going, no way, Jose, that's never going to happen. So my very first breakthrough, you know, I drove my coach crazy, you know, because I was going, need more coaching, need more coaching. And, you know, and then eventually I got up there on stage, I did the event. I couldn't believe that people at the end were applauding me and going, this is awesome, this is amazing. I really had a great weekend. And I was thinking, wow, I did it. I did it. You know, and I walked away and it was a great event and I felt so good about myself. But that was proof number one. That was the very first piece of evidence, you know, that said, you could do this. But no one could actually completely feel what was going on before, you know, the tension, the stress, etc. You know, now I can do these. I have no issue whatsoever. Sure, I do have my heart go a little bit before, like even today, you know, my heart was going a little bit. But that was not fear. That's called care. Because I want to do a good job. I want this to be great for you. I want you to learn something. I want this actually to turn your life around. That's what I want. So that's why your heart might beat a little harder or faster, you know, but what we do is we go into our ego and we go, oh, that's anxiety. You know, oh my God, I've got anxiety, you know, and we give it a label, we give it a name. And I don't know about you, but once you've got a label and a name, it's very hard to get that off. You know, so Anna, stop it. You know, stop telling yourself
and
that.
You know what? I've you know, we talked about this in person.
Yeah.
And you always said you got to do an event. You got to do, no matter how many people turn up, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I'm started to organize one, and I contacted the people, and then I don't have a response. I'm wait for weeks, and this is a manifestation of that limiting belief that they're not responding to me.
Yeah,
you know?
because
I made a proposal.
Yeah, because what do you expect?
What I expect to, you know, accept my proposal, and I says, yes, let's go ahead. Come on, let's go.
Yeah, but do you really expect them to accept it?
But something unconsciously is not believing that I'm good enough to do that. That's what I'm here today.
Yeah, that's right.
And I still, like you said, I need my coach to keep working because something needs to be done.
Yeah, it's a little bit like this. You know that, you know, essentially we're a little bit like an onion. You know, sometimes we work on the outer layer, the first thing. I'm not happy. Okay, let's work on this bit, and we peel that layer away. And then a person says, I feel a bit better, but I'm still not happy. And then you go, okay, what does happy look like for you? What do you need to do? What do you need to be? What do you need to achieve? And then you work on the next thing and you peel away that next layer. And then that person feels much, much better, but still not 100% there. It's because we haven't peeled enough layers, or we haven't got to the core of it. You know, and once you get to the core of it, it really begins to shift. So if I can actually elaborate and go a little bit deeper, you know, that coaching session that I had where I had, you know, what I can only call anxiety, when I actually got into it, it actually came down, this is really weird, it came down to when I was 4 years old. So I'm 4 years old, and all of a sudden I got this memory as I'm going through this coaching session where I get to a point where my brother has said to me, I'm going to come and pick you up from your cousin's house, because that day I was going to visit my cousin, and he said, I'll come and pick you up at your cousin's house, but make sure you're dressed well, because we're going to take you to the Royal Melbourne show. And I'm 4 years old. I'm going, yay! I've never been there before. This is really exciting. And you're going to show our dog. So you're going to, you know, walk with the dog. you know, so they probably thought, you know, 4-year-old cute factor, all of that is going to, you know, increase our opportunity to win. And so they come. Now, I remember it wasn't that great weather. So my mother told me to put on gumboots. So I go to my cousin's house, my brother arrives, and there I am. And he says, right, we got to go. And he looks down at my shoes and he says, or my boots, and he says, you haven't got shoes. And I said, no, I haven't. And he said, well, you can't come. He said, you're not looking great. You can't come. And so here I am thinking, oh, I don't look great. My self-esteem goes down. He takes my cousin instead, and she goes to the Royal Show. And that was a massive disappointment for me. So I'm not good enough, you know, and my brother projected a huge amount of anxiety on me for making that choice of wearing gumboots. So a lot of my anxiety went to that from that point, you know, in my childhood when I was 4 years old, and I carried that for most of my life. After that session, I felt so relieved. And also there was a part of my brain that said, at least now I know why I felt exactly like that. So I'd be looking for, when did you make that decision? You know, when did you actually make that decision? So your process or your position in this process that we go through next is going to be perfect, because you'll know exactly what you're going to work on, what you're going to focus on. Because while you're not out there helping all those people with all those wonderful skills that you have, other people are not getting a benefit. So the quicker you get out there and help those people, the more people are going to get benefit from you, because you're highly skilled, you know what you're doing, you're good at what you do, and you can do it.
Thank you, Rick.
You're welcome. Cool. So any questions, anything you want to share before we go into the next piece? No questions? Okay, let's go into the next piece. So I'm going to open up my slides again. So you should see a slide here that says, how did you become you? Can everyone see that? Yep. Okay, cool. So we're where we need to be. So let me start from here. So what I want to do is, in my mind here, I really want to simplify neuro-linguistic programming. You know, many of you have, you know, learnt NLP. So now what I really want to do is actually really simplify it. How did you become you, and how can you change if you want to? So the first thing that we have to understand is there are many things that determined who we are. So those things, essentially, if you can kind of, you know, join the dots here, you'll get a sense that these things are senses. They're our senses. So when we begin to understand how we became who we are, is part of that journey was that what you heard with your ears gave you words and sounds that you turned into facts. You know, so you heard information, particularly when you were very young, you know, from 0 to 7, it's called the imprint period. The imprint period is when we become who we are today. So from 0 to 7 was the imprint period. And part of the way that you became who you became had to do with what you heard, what your parents said you were, what your parents said you weren't, what your friends said you were and weren't, and they gave you data, they gave you information. But it wasn't just the words themselves, because words have tonality. You know, in other words, the tones that we use, you know, we can use very sort of morbid tones, or we can use upbeat tones when we breathe higher. So, you know, words have that tonality which told you how people sound when they feel good, and how people sound when they feel bad. And what did they do when they felt good, and what did they do when they felt bad? So all of this is data. You know, what we spoke about yesterday, we spoke about reality. So the truth is that all of this is just facts, reality. But we don't live in a real world. We have conditioning. That conditioning creates perception. That perception becomes an altered reality. So in other words, you know, when my mum would scream at me, I didn't think she was bad. I thought I was bad. So I never responded very well to people who screamed or yelled or raised their voice. I would automatically, without thinking, I would automatically shrink when people raised their voice. Why? Because I was conditioned to cower to loud, big voices. And my mum had a big, loud voice. So equally, the other sense is sight. So equally, some things you saw couldn't be unseen. Again, you turn those things that you saw into facts. So they became, in essence, beliefs. Now you believe what you can see with your own two eyes, you know, because our sight basically causes us to believe things. Now, in one of our courses, we have a lady from Germany who is blind, and she's been blind from birth. She is incredibly visual, highly, highly visual. She's never seen a thing in her entire life, but yet she is the most visual person I have ever worked with in my entire career. And she's blind. So the thing is that what we have to understand is that data gets into our brain, whether we can see or whether we can't. And we give it meaning, and that meaning, of course, becomes us. So equally, another sense is our taste. So when you first tasted ice cream, you activated your TAS1R2-3 protein. But your joy of sugar has more to do with making you feel good. You know, do you know why? Why does sugar make you feel good? So I'm just going to leave you with that question. I'm not going to answer it. But the thing that I want you to understand is that also your tastes conditioned what you ate. Here's something from a perceptual position that I want to share with you. I've noticed that when I coach people over the years, I've coached a lot of people who have wanted me to help them to lose weight. And one distinction that I've made is that people who usually are challenged with weight, you know, in other words, they're judging themselves and they're saying, I am overweight, or I weigh too much, or I'm too big, or I'm this or I'm that. Those people often, when they eat for either comfort or taste. People who usually are a bit thinner usually eat for energy. They have a different purpose or a different reason to eat. So remember, all these things are just decisions that we make, and decisions that we make become us. So equally, feelings. When you felt what it was like as a baby or a child when you were picked up. Now think about this. When you're a baby, the things that are going to make you cry are usually when you wet your nappies, you know, or you feel your nappies and you are uncomfortable. It's basically you also will cry when you are cold. So, you know, like we're very, very sensory based when we're newborns. So basically what we learn very quickly is that when mother or father picks us up and we come up and we are brought usually up to the upper part of our torso, where you are usually warmer, softer, and we build these ideas of being cuddled or feeling secure or feeling warm. So basically what that means is this is when we decided that up is good. Now, when we get put down, we are back in the cold air, and usually we can feel the difference from being warm to being cold. So what we decided is that warm is good, cold is bad, some of us, and we decided up is good and down is bad. Therefore, when stocks go down, we get down. When our mood is down, we don't feel good. And so therefore, most of us want to go up in the world. Very few of us want to go down in the world. So therefore, what we have deemed as meaning good or bad is usually good is up, down is bad. So many of these things became us. You know, the formula that really made you was your hearing, your smell, your sight, your taste, your feelings, and these made you who you were. Now, you might say that, Rick, you've got two things that have got feelings. You've got a hand going into water, feeling, and you've also got a heart, which has feelings. The reason that I've got these two things is because your heart brain is where you store all the data as to what is true. So everything that is absolutely, undeniably true is stored in your heart brain. You'll see people when they point to themselves, you know, I do this. Usually they are pointing towards their heart. People, when they say it's totally true, will usually hold their heart. So your heart captures your entire identity. In fact, in our master's program, we now do a thing that I'm going to take you through today called the three-brain integration. And the three-brain integration essentially is when we put the truth in our heart. So in that training, I also share that there's, and you may have heard many of these stories, where people have had heart transplants. And these heart transplants actually have caused people to change their personality, because what you're doing is you're taking someone else's truth and putting it in your body. So, you know, there have been people who all of a sudden, there's this one lady who had a heart transplant and she started eating Cheetos and beer, drinking beer. And she never drank beer and she hated Cheetos. But after a heart transplant, all of a sudden she changed. She discovered that the recipient, you know, the person who gave her the heart, not the recipient, the donor, had actually loved Cheetos and drinking beer. Fascinating, huh? So the thing that we have to understand is that permanent change happens using the senses. And of course, NLP, when we're using NLP techniques, usually we're saying, I want you to see this. I want you to feel this. I want you to notice what you're saying to yourself. I want you to notice what you feel in your body, what you hear, what you see. And we're using the senses over and over again. And the reason that NLP uses sensory language is because sensory language is how you decided you were you in the first instance. It's how it got into you. It's how you became you. It's all the sensory language. So when you see something and you hear someone say that this is what it means, and you feel it in your heart as being true, guess what? It is. Whether it is or whether it isn't, that's how we become who we become. So let's start with understanding this at a deeper level. Let's start with the unconscious, because this is where you want all of your permanent change to take place. You want to be 100% convinced of something in your unconscious mind in order to be able to be that something. So in other words, when we were talking with Anna about, believing I can do this, you want whatever this is, like presenting on stage or whatever it might be, you want this to be in your heart. And you want to believe within your heart that you can do it. Now, sometimes, this can create a problem, because sometimes we've actually got to see ourselves having done it in order to 100% believe that we could do it. So sometimes what we've got to do is we've got to push through our fear zone to actually do something that we're not 100% convinced we can do it, in order to see ourselves doing it, to be able to completely allow the unconscious brain to completely believe that we can actually do it. So Gerald Zaltman, a Harvard professor, basically said that 95% of thought, emotion, and learning occur in the unconscious mind. That is without our awareness. Now, when I first learnt NLP back in 2004, they actually said the number wasn't 95% of all thought and emotion occur in the unconscious. The actual number was 80%. So they basically said 80% of all thought, emotion, and learning occur in the unconscious. Now they're saying 95%. I've even heard someone say 97%. But now we're splitting hairs. The truth is, the large majority of our awareness and who we are is happening at the unconscious level. Now, of course, the iceberg is a good analogy to get a sense of this, because what we actually are conscious of is only about 5% of our conscious behavior. Like when we fold our arms, do we fold left over right or right over left? We don't know until we do it. And then we check out, is our left over right or is our right over left? The moment we can see it with our senses, we now know I'm a left over right rather than a right over left. When you fold your hands, usually it's the same. If you're a right over left, you'll do a right over left when you fold your fingers together. In other words, your thumb will be right over left or left over right. But we don't consciously think about that. Our unconscious basically sorts that out through muscle memory. So there's the subconscious, and I want to create a distinction here, because some people say, is the subconscious the unconscious? No. Because what we have is when, let's say, the body is dehydrated, the unconscious will send a signal into the subconscious, where you will begin to notice that your mouth is dry, and then what you then may do is reach for a drink. So the subconscious is things that you could remember, but you've got to be very relaxed or in the state that you remembered it in the first instance. So what then you do is then you get yourself back in the state and you can remember the thing. So that's the subconscious. It's almost like you can literally fold your arms and then you can work it out whether you're right over left or left over right, and you can access the memory. The unconscious is much, much deeper. To access the unconscious, you have to work to get someone into a state, into a very specific state in order to get the effect. So the unconscious is 95% of where everything happens. And, for those of you that I've taught NLP to, you'll be aware of Homer Simpson, and you'll be aware of my model to show you how these perceptual filters of the mind that we actually discussed yesterday, but we discussed it at another level. We spoke about reality, conditioning, perception, and then altered reality. Now I want to show you the NLP model of that. So basically what happens is through our senses, the eyes, the ears, the feelings, the self-talk, smells, tastes, we witness something. So what happens is there are 2 million bits of information per second that can come into our consciousness, but we can't consciously cope with that number of data. So what we do is we delete and distort and generalize this information through various filters, such as the language filter. You know, if I say, saya mau nasi goreng, you know, if you don't know Indonesian, you don't know that I said, I want fried rice. So your language filter will delete what I just said because you don't understand Indonesian. But if you do understand Indonesian, that information can now continue. So then what happens is our attitude filter also determines, do I like it? Do I not like it? What am I going to feel when I get that data information? What is my attitude? How am I going to respond? And then, of course, there's memories filter, which is where we do most of the work. Our memories filter is basically, it's a catalog of everything we've experienced and done. Then there's our beliefs filter. Our beliefs filter tells us what we believe, what we don't believe, what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad, what's real, what's unreal. You know, so our beliefs filter is very black and white, on, off. Do we believe it or don't we believe it? Now, for example, one filter that I had to do a lot of work on when I was first changing my financial thermostat, I did a lot of work on my beliefs filter, because my beliefs filter said I could not be rich, I could not be wealthy, I could not be a millionaire, I could not be a multimillionaire. Why? Because I believed that I wasn't smart enough in order to be that. You know, and then later on, it was because I believed I wasn't confident enough to be that. So my beliefs had to change in order for my reality to change. So your values filter is basically, we all value different things. You know, in the context, if I can utilize an example, Anna, you were saying earlier that, you know, you felt that you weren't good enough to get up on stage. So your values is you're valuing your comfort zone more than valuing increasing your income. You know, if you value increasing your income more than your comfort zone, then you'll get out of your comfort zone to increase your income. So does that make sense? So then we go to our meta programs. Meta programs are basically, they're non-content filters. In other words, do you focus on people or do you focus on projects? Do you think in big picture? Do you think in detail? Do you basically look at things when you go to a restaurant? Do you look at people? Do you look at recipes? Do you look at, you know, service? Do you look at the decor? Where do you focus your attention? So they are what's known as our meta programs. Now, as a coach, you need to know what these things are, because all of them come down to decisions. What do we decide? You know, and we decide who we're going to be, how we're going to be, what we're going to do, and how we're going to do it. We decide all of these things based on all of these filters. So in other words, once you have a model like this, you can start working with people and you can work with yourself, because you can work out in the context of a problem, where does the problem exist? Does the problem exist in our attitudes? Does it exist in something that happened in the past? Is it a memory? Is it a belief? You know, is it a black and white, I can't do? Is it a value? Are we valuing something else over something else? Is it a meta program? Is it a very function in the way that I think? Or is it a decision that is based on many of these filters? So what happens ultimately is when data comes to us, it turns into an internal representation. In other words, we give it perception, we give it meaning. And what happens with that perception and that meaning, that causes us to create a certain state. That state becomes our physiology. We drop our shoulders, we lift our shoulders, we put up our fists. We create a physiology based on the event and how we perceive the event, and then that ultimately becomes our behavior. So when we're working with people to create change, what we have to do is we have to have models. You know, if we do not have models, it is hard to create change, because we've got to know where to look, and we've got to get our problem as specific as possible in order to create the transformation, to create the change. So these are the filters of the mind. So those 2 million bits, they delete, they distort, they generalize down to 7 plus or minus 2 bits of information per second. In other words, we get rid of everything that we think is irrelevant. And unfortunately, some of those things are very relevant, but we're just not seeing them. Now, this got me really curious in the context of improving my life, because I could ask myself, what am I not seeing that I need to see? What do I not know that I need to know? What do I need to pick up that I'm not picking up? So what I'm going to get you back into is another breakout. And I want you now to get into another chat. And I want you to think about, out of those filters, and by the way, I have put the filters in your manual on page 13. So if you haven't done it, I'm just going to go back just a step. So they're the filters. So the language, attitudes, memories, beliefs, values, meta programs, decisions. So in your manual, you can write those down if you haven't already. So as some of you are writing those down now, because you're going to need this list to go into the next exercise. So language is, what is the language? In other words, you need to expand your language if you are going to go into new territory. So for example, if you're going to go into marketing, you need to know the language of marketing to be able to do some of the functions of marketing. So if you have problems marketing, it means you don't understand the language of marketing. You know, I decided to understand the language of transformation because that's the area that I wanted to become an expert in, transformation. So I needed to know the language of that. So you got attitudes, memories, beliefs, values, meta programs, and decisions. So I'm going to assume that everyone's got that down now. So what I'd like you to do is get into a group chat about what you've learned so far. And most importantly, what filter of the mind in the context of the dilemma or issue or problem or block that you've got, where do we need to focus? What is it that's causing the most problem? Is it because you believe something? Is it because your memory tells you you weren't really good enough in that area, or something became problematic in that area? Here's an example. Quite often when I'm working with people to increase their income, quite often many people who stall on their income or stall on their wealth, a better example, it's often because an investment that they made went wrong and they lost a lot of money. So what they often did is they said, that's it, I'm never going to invest ever again. And as a result of that, if you don't invest, your wealth doesn't grow. So usually we've got to go in the memory filter and we've got to undo that program. So we're going to be aiming to get into an exercise after this to make a new decision. So that's where we're going. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop share and let's pop you into another breakout Remember, the point of this is to get you really focused on what decision are you wanting to shift, to get you really focused on what decision about yourself or about the world or about that problem area are you going to shift. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another breakout room. Let me recreate it so we can get to work with some new people. So let me just double check that. Yep, that's excellent. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you, again, let me give you another 12 minutes. So I'm going to open all rooms. So the purpose is to go in a room and go, what is the filter that I need to work on? And what is the thing that I need to work on? So can everyone see the join button there? Excellent. Okay, welcome back everyone. So my guess is that you've had a bit of a conversation. You've got a bit of an idea of where you're focusing. So is everyone reasonably clear on where they're focusing, what decision that they really want to change? So hands up if you're pretty clear on what needs to change. Okay, cool. Okay, and I've got a lot of blanked out screens, so I cannot see your hands up. So here's what I'm going to do. Firstly, I'm going to give you a very, very quick training. So we're going to go through a process. This is going to be a closed eye process. So please make sure that you haven't got anything on that needs to get your attention, like an iron, could be bad. Food on the stove, that could be worse. And equally, make sure you turn off your phones, unless, of course, you're using them to jump on here. So just get rid of all distractions. So I'm going to give you a quick training. Of course, I'm not going to go into depth like I would in NLP practitioner training or masters or anything. I'm going to give you just enough so you understand what your job is, what you need to do. So let's start by, I want you to give this limit that you've got, I want you to give this limit a number from 0 to 100. So 100 means it's a huge, debilitating problem. 0, it's not a problem at all. So my guess it's not 0, and my guess it may not even be 100. But this particular problem that you have is somewhere between 0 to 100. So give it a measure, give it a number from 0 to 100. And you can give it to yourself in your head, or you can write it down, completely up to you. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through just a few little points before we get started. So everyone can see new decisions. Can you see a PowerPoint? Yep. Okay, great. So new decisions really at the end of the day hold the power to create a new you. So let's get an understanding of this. Let's say some friends say, hey, let's go skydiving. And the first moment that you're asked to go skydiving, a picture enters into your mind, but not the picture that is there on screen. What happens is your brain scans your neurology for your answer. And what happens is you remember your very first event where you hurt yourself. Let's say at 2 years old, you fell over and you hurt your nose. Then what happens is your second event, you had another fall, but this time you broke your leg at 4 years old. And then you had another fall at 8 and you broke your arm. So your brain thinks about skydiving, it brings imagination to the fore, and you imagine skydiving and you think that you're going to explode on impact because it was pretty bad when you had that first fall. It was worse when you broke your leg. It was just as bad when you broke your arm. But if you jump out of a plane and you hit the ground, you're going to explode on impact. It's going to be disastrous. So of course, you know that your brain's going to be saying, no way, Jose, I'm not going skydiving. So the first thing we have to understand here is this is how our brain works. It looks at our memories filter and it says, how do we cope in situations that were similar to what we're expecting ourselves to do? So fears turn into facts. They're not, but they do. They turn into facts. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a process called timeline. So we're going to go back into the past where you made a decision that is affecting your future. Right now you're in the present, but what you're going to do is I'm going to get you to close your eyes. I'm going to guide you the entire way. You're going to rise up above now. You're going to then, what we call a disassociation position. You're then going to come into an event where you made a critical decision about your life or yourself. And then you're going to perhaps have a memory of that. You might see pictures, or you might hear words, you might feel feelings. Just trust the process and let whatever comes up come up for you. Then what's going to happen is then I'm going to get you above that event. We're going to go into a place called the learning position. These two next positions are the most important positions. The learning position is where you're going to learn from that decision. You're going to learn something. Then you're going to release that decision, which we call the release position. You're going to let go of that old decision, and then you're going to go back into the previous decision and notice how it's changed. Then we're going to future pace you. We're going to take you into the future with this new decision, and you're going to notice how it has changed. So I'm running very quickly through this. So that's what we call a future pace. And then you're going to come back to the present. So that's the process. But here's a few things that I really want you to get. The first thing is the release position. Its purpose is to let go of the decision. So you'll imagine a picture of the event in your hands, and the purpose is to let go of it. So that represents the decision. So the key is that you're going to consciously drop that picture. So you're going to consciously drop that decision. The result will be that this unconsciously releases the importance of the event. It also releases the picture. What you're actually saying is you're saying it's no longer relevant. That decision is no longer relevant to me. So the next is the learning position. The purpose of that is to reframe the decision, and you'll imagine a higher level lesson or something that you're learning about that decision. Now, what this does is this often gives you a paradigm shift where you start to see it in a completely different way. And the key here is that you're going to consciously accept it over the previous decision. Now, some things to note here is sometimes it's helpful to get the opposite of the decision. So, for example, the purpose of fear is often a signal that it's time to be courageous. So in other words, sometimes the learning is that when you go back to a very sad event, what you're actually learning is that a sad event is just telling you that this is not, you're not enjoying this. This is not good. This is not your life. You don't want this. So sometimes the learning is very simple. Sometimes the learning can be quite profound, but I'm going to guide you through this. But I just wanted to give you these points to really help you to get the best value out of this process. So all you have to do is choose that limiting decision regarding your goal, then close your eyes and listen very, very carefully to my voice as I'll guide you. And trust the process. Let your imagination guide you. It may bring up emotion. You know, it may not. Now, there's only two important keys: the release position is to let go of the decision. The learning position is to discover a lesson. So that's really what we're aiming to gain from this particular exercise. Now, I'm going to do it with everyone. So you're all going to experience this at the same time. So are you ready to let go of that decision? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some music, but I'll share. Let me first see if you can hear this music. So hands up if you can. No. I'll put some more volume. You can hear it? Yes? Okay, Monica's shaking her head. Turn up really loud. Yep, okay. It's not critical that you hear the music. It's more critical you hear my voice. Okay, so what I'm going to get you to do is I'm going to get you to just close your eyes. So just close your eyes. And what I'd like you to do is allow yourself to just focus on that decision. Focus on that decision that you made about yourself or about your life or about others. And in a moment, not now, I'm going to get you to rise up above now. So go ahead and allow yourself to rise up above now. So as you rise up above now, I want you to see yourself very small, very tiny, very, very small, very tiny as you rise higher and higher above now. So as you rise above now, in a moment, not now, I'm going to have you go back to that time, the very first time that you made that limiting decision. And your unconscious mind will reveal that to you. You'll see what you saw. You will hear perhaps what you heard. And you may, in fact, feel the feelings of going all the way back there now. So just allow yourself to dream, to drift, to drop, to fall. Just dreaming, drifting, dropping, falling. And as you go all the way back to that event, I want you to let your unconscious mind to see what you saw, to hear what you heard, and feel the feelings are going all the way back there now. So just trust your unconscious to reveal that event to you. That's right. So in a moment, not now, you will find yourself at a time in your life when you made that limiting decision. And it may have been an event that was caused by someone else to have you think this way. Or it may have been an event that wasn't ideal. So just trust your conscious to take you all the way back and allow your unconscious to reveal the event to you. Now, should you begin to see the event now, what I'm going to get you to do is I want you to just raise your hand. If you are at the event now, just raise your hand so I can get a sense. Okay, so most of you are now at the event. Good job. So what I want you to do is I want you to move around this event. But I want you to move around this event and find with some amusement that you're starting to get a sense, and you can lower your hands and start to get a sense of why did you make this decision? Why did you make this decision? And it may become clear to you. But of course, at times, sometimes we make limiting decisions. We make decisions that don't really serve us or our higher good. In other words, that decision may have been hindering you for much of your life. So I want you to begin to get a sense of where you feel it in your body as you make this decision. Just get a sense of where you feel it in your body having made this decision. And now that you have an awareness or getting a sense of where you feel it in your body having made this decision, and getting a sense of this decision, what I want you to do now is rise up above now. So going higher and higher, way, way above now. You can see yourself. You can see yourself in the event, getting very small, very, very tiny, very small, very tiny, very insignificant. And rising up above this event, I want you to find yourself in a very wise space. So in this very wise space, here is where you're going to get a learning. Because this decision that you made really hasn't served you in your life. But you made it perhaps due to fear. Perhaps you made it because you were overcritical of yourself or others. But it hasn't served you having made this decision. Now, I want you to get a sense of what is the lesson. What was this decision and this event trying to teach you? Now, sometimes we can find ourselves at a particular point in our lives and we start to realize that when we are feeling fear, it is actually an opportunity that the universe has given us to be able to find ourselves making courageous choices. And once you begin to realize this, you start to get a sense that the only way that you can feel fear is through something scary, of course. And the only way to get courage is to experience fear. So in other words, you can only experience courage by facing fear. Now, at other times, the only time you can discover that you have intelligences is to challenge your intellect. So challenge is a very important part of growth. So this learning may, in fact, be an opportunity for growth. So what I want you to do is I want you to get a learning. What was this event aiming to teach you? And I want you to get the learning now. That's right. You have incredible wisdom. You are much smarter than you think you are. You have more power than you ever realized. And this tells you that you could do amazing things when you allow yourself. So get the learning. And allow the learning to go into the special place where all special learnings are kept. Now, what I want you to do, if you've got the learning, if you've really got it now, I want you to just raise your hand and give me a sense if you have the learning. Excellent. Good job. So what I'm going to get you to do is I want you now, as you put down your hands and make a stand for a whole new life, I want you to move now into the release position, because it's time to release that old decision. So move about an hour before this event even occurred, going into the release position. And you'll see a picture of the event in your hands and your feet out behind. And there in the picture is a symbolic representation of that old decision. So in a moment, not now, I'm going to count from 3 to 1. And then you'll release that decision. And you'll make a complete new decision. So 3, preserve the learnings, preserve the lessons in the special place where all special learnings are kept. And 2, begin to get a sense of the new learnings coming to you easily and effortlessly into your body now. And you're starting to realize that where you felt that feeling of that old limiting decision in your body is now beginning to fade. It's now beginning to lessen and lessen and lessen and lessen as you get the lessons. And 2, begin to see your world in new and wondrous ways as you now get a new decision. So I want you to get a new decision, make a new decision. And I want you to put it into empowering words. This new decision, put it into empowering words in a new, short, powerful sentence. And as you structure this new decision, in a moment, I'm going to count from 1 to 3. And then when I say 3, I want you to be free and I want you to say your new decision in your head or out loud. 1, 2, 3. Excellent. And that's a good decision. So now what I want you to do is take on that decision. Take on that new decision. and 2, begin to see your world in new and wondrous ways as a result of making that decision. And 1, drop the photo and let the photo go down, 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 down. And when the photo's completely gone, give me a nod. Excellent. Good job. So what I'm going to get you to do now is I want you to go back to that old event. So just allow yourself to go down back to that old event where you made that old limiting decision. And I want you to notice how it's changed. Now, something will have changed. When you change at a conscious level and allow yourself to change at an unconscious level, things begin to shift. Your sensory positions begin to change and alter. So notice how it's changed. And if it's changed, I'd like you to just raise your hand again to indicate that it has changed for you for good. Excellent. Good work. So now I want you to just allow yourself to go into your future. And I want you to go into your future so you can get to the point, a very important point, a point when you can now see the results of now making this new decision. And I want you to ideally see your life conforming to your new words, your new decision. And I want you to see the magical elements forming now in front of you as you begin to see yourself moving into the future now in a more empowered way. Now as your spirit, as your soul, as your destiny really needed to see you. Allow yourself to see yourself perfectly. Having made this new decision. And it's a good thing that you made this new decision. It's a good thing that you backed yourself courageously to make this new decision. And now what I'd like you to see is move out further into your future. I want you to see what happens as a result of making this new decision. I want you to see yourself in the future as a result of making this new decision. And now I want you to feed your mind with all the power of these images, all the love and attention, and all the wonderful things that come as a result of making this new decision. I want you to see your life as it was destined to be. And allow yourself to create the color, the magic, the splendor. And allow the divine energy to bless this. I want you to see the magic in the air as your future vision is blessed. And I want you to begin to feel it in your heart. Feel it in your heart now as this future vision for you receives a blessing. And it feels good. It feels right. It feels as it was meant to be. So in this moment, you get a sense that the universe is whispering in your ear, saying, it's a good thing. It's a good thing that you took on the challenge. It's a good thing that you learned. And it's good that you've done this. So now what I'd like you to do is ultimately, I'd like you to see your last day on earth. The very last day on earth. And all the things that have become so grand and so good as a result of making that decision that you made. Begin to see all of the love and joy and all the good things that have come as a result of making that new decision. Good work. You've done really well. So now what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to come back to the present. And now what I want you to do is I want you to focus on your head. Focus on your thoughts. And if there is something more that you wish to change about this decision, about the things that you will do, if there is something grand or something great or something wonderful that you want to do, I want you to imagine that you are breathing easily now. I want you to breathe a little bit deeper, a little bit longer, and I want you to breathe in 6-second cycles. Just breathing very deep in, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathing out, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathing in, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathing out, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathing in, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathing out, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathing in, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathing out and bringing your breath to normal. Now, I'd like us to get a little bit of information from each of your intelligences. I want your heart to speak to you. So focusing now on your heart and only your heart. I want you to focus on your heart in the context of your goal, in the context of your dream. What has your heart got to say to you? Now, your heart speaks very simply, very easily. Let your heart speak to you. What does it want? What does it wish? In your heart of hearts, what do you want? What do you wish? And now I'd like you to take that up. Take what your heart of hearts wants and wishes. I want you to take that all the way up to your head brain. And I want your head brain to now speak to the words of the heart. What does your head brain have to contribute? Your head brain may give you strategies. It may give you things to do. It may give you tasks. So I want your head brain to now tell you what you need to do. What does your head brain tell you that you need to do? And now I'd like you to bring what your head brain has told you and take that down to your heart. and ask yourself, what does your heart have to say about that? What would it like to share? What does your heart brain wish to share? And now I'd like you to take that up now again to your head brain. Taking that to your head brain. And what more does your head brain have to say about that? What is it that you must do? What is it got to contribute? Now it knows what your heart wants, and it's very good with strategy, tasks, and things to do. So it's telling you to do something. To get a sense of what your head brain is telling you to do. Now, I want you to go all the way down. Take all of those things to do. Take it all down to your heart brain. And your heart brain may share its thoughts. So just let your heart brain share its thoughts. And now your gut brain. I want you to take it all down to your gut brain, because your gut brain has been listening all along. And I want you to discover your gut brain, which is courage. I want you to hear from what your gut brain tells you to do. So what does your gut brain tell you to do? And now what I'd like you to do is, now that you've heard from your gut brain, your heart brain, your head brain, I want you to bring it all up into your heart. And as you bring it all into your heart, you know what you want. You know what to do. And it's just about doing it now. So I want your heart, your gut, and your head brain to align now. Like they are all in unison. They are all connected. They are all on the same page. They all want what you want for you. And now what I'd like you to do is see that vision in the future. Again, see that vision in the future. But I want you to see it in a golden light. Just begin to see that vision in a golden light. And you may be hearing voices like, you can do this. You may be hearing encouragement. You are destined for this. You may be feeling it at a deep unconscious level, knowing full well that you can achieve whatever you focus your energy and your courage upon. And begin to see the golden light all around your vision. And feel feel the connection in your heart. And in a moment, not now, you're going to come all the way back. But hold this vision, because each person who has ever created anything in this world has a vision that they hold on to. They never let go of it. They always hold on to it. I want you to create this vision very clearly, very specifically, very distinctly. Good job. So I'm going to count you back now from 5 to 1, bringing you back very easily. 5. Preserve all of the learnings, all of the insights, all of the information that you got, and put it in the special place where all special learnings are kept. And 4, allowing yourself to see your world in wondrous ways, in magical ways. And 3, feeling free and at peace. And 2, coming back to the room. And 1, wonderfully refreshed, back, opening your eyes. Now. Okay. Okay, so what was your experience? Is there anyone who would like to share? What was your experience? What did you notice through the process? I know you're all still a little bit out to it, but what did you notice through the process? Who would like to share?
I can share.
Yeah, cool, Anna.
Can't see much. Wow, it was very moving, I would say. I can lower my hand now. Okay.
You can.
I didn't even touch that.
No, it's Zoom does it now. When you put your hand up, it automatically brings up a hand. So there are a few hands that came up.
Right. Okay. I think this wasn't one of the first times that I cried. And I got to that point where that moment or that situation that I felt that limiting belief, and I just that moved me. But I was emotionally, but it was good that it did that, because then I could let go of that. And then when I was doing the learnings, it was really good. I could picture and the learning and the phrase, and then when I let go as well, it's like the picture it was coming back, and I got to the point that I had to. It was like I have to tear it in pieces.
Tear it out. Yep.
Tear it out in pieces in my head, because it was coming back, and so I had to make it disappear, sort of thing. When you said that if it disappeared or not, and I thought, well, I have to get it to disappear somehow.
Yeah.
And and then when, as you said, that recreate from that, after we did the learnings and now we came back to that situation, how we move forward from there, having the learnings, it was like I was with myself and thousands of myself, like holding arms by arm and
Yeah.
just advancing, like, like marching,
Yeah.
it was like that. And it felt really good.
It's a very strong image that you got.
Yeah, yeah. And I was surprised because I've done this before several times.
Yeah.
And I think it's the first time that I got to that point where I sincerely felt that, I'm still emotional about it, but yeah, so it was really good. I
Can we
feel
give
happy
you
now.
can we give you a huge round of applause? Excellent. Fantastic. That's great work. Now, one thing that I'll say is that the first thing we have to understand is 50% of the prefrontal cortex is all designed essentially to be visual. So visual is a really important key. Like if we choose to create a goal in our future, the first thing that we typically want to do is turn it visual. So it becomes real as a picture. And then what I did through that process is I did a timeline, and I also did a 3-brain integration at the very end of it to integrate it, to create conversations. Now, sometimes when you do this, now as a group, it can sometimes be challenging. Working one-on-one, it's a lot easier because you can kind of measure in how people are going. So typically when you move something from how do you feel here, like your heart has a language that's very simple. Your head has a more complex language. So quite often when you take a dream up into your head can start to, it can either be positive or negative. Did anyone have their head go a bit negative on them when they took it up? No? Okay, that's good. Because that sometimes happens. Sometimes your head can get very negative and critical. And, it can start to, take away that goal, that dream, that vision. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put you all into a little group. So this time I'll put you in groups of about 2. I want you to just have a little bit of a dialogue about what did you experience through that exercise? Where are you now in context with that old decision? And then let's have a little bit of dialogue and then we'll wrap. So what I'll do is let's create another breakout room. I'll recreate the breakout room again. Here we go. And we'll go for about 10 minutes. So just have a little short chat with a buddy about what new decisions have you made? What was your experience in that process? So the rooms are open, so feel free to jump in and join now. You see a little blue button there. Can everyone see that? Yep, cool. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Did the fun police pull you out of the breakout room?
We're muted, are we? Yeah, yes, you did. You pulled us out too short.
You were just about to say, and the murderer is?
Yeah, Bill was just about to tell us something. That's all right.
He was about to tell you something profound, yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, your people have to connect to their people at some point after breakthrough. Yeah. So before we've just got one more thing to cover off, and before we do, are there any questions? Are there any things that you want to share? Is there anything at all that you want to share with us before we jump into the final piece?
Just wanted to share one quick thing. When we were doing the last process, what do you call it? We went back to the point where we made that decision. Then we went forward and told ourselves that, and we looked down and saw the decision, the time we made it, and then we went back down to that point again, and you said to us, look at that decision again and hear it and see it. I couldn't see or hear it. It had just disappeared.
Yeah, completely disappeared.
It's almost like I never made that decision now.
Yeah. Quite often, as you guys know, that whenever when you change, particularly in the timeline process, quite often what happens is that visual representation sometimes either changes, like I've heard people say that it's gone from color to black and white, or it's completely, as you rightly say, it's completely disappeared, completely gone. And of course, the most important piece is that visually it has changed. So it doesn't have, if you think about it, it doesn't have the same submodalities that it once had. Like, you know, it can go from color to black and white, or it can completely disappear. And given the fact that we are so visually focused and so visually driven, it is so useful to begin to change those visual images in your head. So how did you feel about the new decision?
Good.
Good.
Should have made it years ago.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, sometimes it doesn't really matter when you learn, you know,
No.
that eventually you do, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
You know, but how many of us have got friends, relatives, others who complain at Christmas time and tell you the same story over and over and over again, you know, and they're people who just have not made a new decision. You know, they just keep recycling that old decision over and over and over again. Cool. So thank you. Is there anything else that anyone wants to share at all? Okay. So what I'm going to, sorry, I heard a voice. Yes, Nathan.
Yeah, just something really quick to do with the visual. Like for me, like growing up with my father, it was like living in a minefield. And I never knew when would put my foot down and it would be on solid earth, or when I put my foot down and it would blow up in my face. So I used to call my father a rageaholic. That was before I discovered he was a narcissist, and which now makes sense to me. But to do with the visual, when we went back to it, I encountered the area with the field and the mines. But in this image now, I was seeing the image of my father, but all the mines were gone. It was just a field.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a major change. And I'm going, wow, that was nice.
But you can also see how we metaphorically put things in our images as well, you know, like mines, for example. We can't help it. I must say I was kind of hovering between making this breakthrough a full day event and another full day event. As you know, there's so much to teach, and you often think to yourself, you know, that would be fantastic. But I know that people's time can be limited, you know, but I was going to do a whole piece on metaphors and how we create these metaphors quite often in our life, and they dictate our lives, because we talk about, you know, getting over things, you know, and so forth. But the truth is, no one's getting over anything. You know, it's just a metaphor.
Yeah.
I think I was thinking about when you mentioned the meta programs.
Yeah.
And you said where we focus on.
Yep.
Thing you said, and and it's a good way of putting it, because it's like we got these things that we've been doing for so long that it becomes this. The meta program is in this rock that we carry around with us. But this is what I do. I do this way, and you know, and it's like the meta programs, I think, is something very useful to break that. Where is it that we focus on and not serving us? And I say this, and I say it to myself, because this is what I need to tell myself right now. And I think it's something that is big in me. And, you know, where is it that I'm focused? You know, because and that's where I put my energy. So need to change that. I think this participating today, it was really good for me. Thank you.
Awesome. You're welcome. You're welcome. You know, but it's kind of like, if we think about it, if we're going to create a new reality, a new world, we've got to make new decisions. We've got to get into some of those patterns, those beliefs, and disturb them, change them, interrupt them, you know, so that they're not pushing us forward in the same way that it's been pushing us all through our lives. So it's really important to create the change. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through just a bit more of an explanation of neuro-linguistic programming, because I keep using, that frame, neuro-linguistic programming. And whoa, sorry, I've got to change my screen. Here we go. So right now, you should all see the slides. Can everyone? Actually, I can't see you guys now. Let me change this so I can actually see you guys. Okay. I'll stop share and start again. So let me share again. And here we go. Okay. Yep, that works. Okay, great. Can everyone see my slides? Yep. Okay, great. So basically, what I want to talk about as we wrap is neuro-linguistic programming, because much of what we've been talking about, all weekend was very much based on this. To summarize what NLP actually is, I know many of you know this, but to summarize it, I call it the art and science of transformation and communication, because they're essentially the two ingredients, the main two ingredients from NLP. It's about, tools for transformation and also tools to improve communication. If we think about, to build a house, typically we really need two ingredients. We need a plan, or a blueprint. And we, of course, need some power tools, some tools that can help us to create the change. And in NLP, it's really no different. You need a plan and you need some tools to help to orchestrate the actual plan. So basically, what I utilized NLP for is, personally for me, is I wanted to change my financial blueprint. So I completely wanted to change that. But what I also wanted to do was I wanted to use it as a coach, because I wanted to be a coach, I wanted to be an author, I wanted to be a trainer. So I went through this door knowing what I wanted, but I didn't completely know the path. Of course, I then learned how to build that path. And so ultimately, I built the life that I really wanted. A lot of people said, Rick Schnabel, you're the new Tony Robbins. You should be traveling the world. You should be doing this. You should be doing that. I realized I didn't want to be Tony Robbins. I really didn't want to be that guy. I didn't want to be living out of a suitcase for most of my life. I really wanted a bit of an easier life. But I still wanted to help people. So I designed my life exactly as I live it now. And it does, if you want to choose a particular life, you do have to invest some time to actually design it, to really create it. But, there are lots of other people that learnt NLP: Oprah Winfrey, Steven Spielberg, Darren Brown, Russell Brand, Tony Robbins, Bill Clinton, Hugh Jackman. These are just some celebrities or well-known people that have learned NLP. Now, NLP is a set of tools. But the next question is, what do you do with those tools? Hugh Jackman wanted to use it because he was going from, movies to stage plays, and he had big anxiety around that. Tony Robbins, of course, used it in a way where he could transform people's lives. Darren Brown used it for entertainment, essentially, as did Steven Spielberg, Oprah. Bill Clinton, not so sure he used it for good things. But, Russell Brand equally used it to communicate. And, if you know Russell's history, he was actually a really anxious man. So NLP at the end of the day can really take you to where you want it to take you. This was one particular guy, and I'm sharing his testimonial because I helped turn this guy's life around in what essentially was a 30-minute conversation. And I used NLP tools in my conversation with him, and it completely shifted his values. And as a result of that, he doubled his income because he had limits. He had limits on himself. And it was really that piece that we shared yesterday, changing that perceptual position so he could perceive himself in a whole different way. So this particular course is what I'm talking about. Is our first level course is our life coach and NLP practitioner training. So of course, this discount code that you can use, I'm encouraging you, if you want to use that, to use it before midnight tonight, because you can actually use that on any of our training. So even right up to trainer training. So all of our trainings, basically you can use that code. So they're already discounted, plus that means there's an extra 30% discount on it. The only way that you can't use it is if you've already done the course and you're coming to do the course again. There's a much lesser rate for past students to redo, and that's on the life coach and NLP practitioner training page and every other page. So if you wanted to do this, what I decided to do is add some extra pieces to this. So for example, what I've added to the Prac course is our Millionaire Master Academy program, which is all about teaching you strategies to improve your wealth. That's what that program is all about. Then I've also put the Marketing Incubator, which is all about teaching you how to market yourself. If you want to be a coach, or if you want to be a trainer or author, or working with people essentially. And of course, the life coach and NLP practitioner course that I was talking about. So this particular course, what's in it is a lot. I just want to give you a few slides to get a sense of it. And many of you people have done this, so you know that it's foundational to advanced NLP and life coaching skills training. And it's also to stop negative emotions from influencing you. You can also change your traumatic past for good. That is the timeline technique, which we teach in this program. And this is also about learning how to manage and master your emotions. As you get a sense today, your feelings are not facts, but you really need to learn how to master your emotions, particularly as you're moving forward. How to change limiting beliefs. You learn specialized tools to improve your money mindset as well. How to identify your limits and also how to remove them. And then discover the power of hypnosis to change neurological pathways. And for the coaches, what we've also got, because 50% of people who come in this course are coming because they want to be really good coaches. 50% are just coming for themselves, but this is for the coaches. We also teach how to easily attract clients as a coach or change maker, how to set up your coaching systems, administration, all the back end stuff, discover how to scale up your business, and how to create landing pages and websites, become an influence for good in the world, and learn the commercial coaching systems that the professionals use. There's a whole heap in here. There is a challenge. We call this the $50,000 challenge, how you can turn 5 hours a week into $50,000. And we'll give you the formula for doing that. And then we'll give you the templates, the sales systems, and proving coaching tools. So for the coaches, there's a lot in this particular program, but it's for coaches, and it's also for you if you want to move your life forward. So there's a number of ways that we do this. The first is the training. The second is we give you some audios to be able to take in the training at a deeper level. Then there's the training modules themselves, the 35 training modules that you learn. There's coaching inside of the training, so you also get to be coached and coach. And there's the Marketing Incubator, of course. And there's 3 certificates. You become an NLP practitioner, an Ericksonian hypnotherapist, and a life coach. and it's accredited through the Neuro-Linguistic Programming Association of Australia. And all of the modules each week that you learn goes on a fast track page. So if ever you cannot attend 1 week's training, you then can go to the fast track page and watch the modules. So you can watch those modules again and again and again, and you get lifetime access to those. So this is the actual course. So of course, I'm giving you the bonuses, which is the marketing incubator. So that's for coaches or anyone marketing online courses or things like that. And then I'm also giving you the Millionaire Master Academy as well. So this is really about shifting your thermometer in the context of money and wealth. There's 52 videos in there. It's a massive program. It really, really is. So this here is basically, as I've already shared this with you, that instead of paying the 5,960, we've already discounted that on the website plus the 30%. So this is what it looks like. So it's really about $12,000 worth of value, and we're bringing it right down to 2,772. So that's for the whole thing. So if you want to take Breakthrough and take it further, then this is a great way to do it. There's also a 12-month payment plan if you want to pay it off. So it works out to $263.90. Or there's even a 24-month payment plan for $137.90. So we've priced this so anybody can do it. And so this is the course if you want to continue creating breakthroughs, certainly in your own life. This is a lovely, lovely man who did the course. He said, my world crashed around me and a friend suggested I do a course with Life Beyond Limits. I'm so thankful I did. In all honesty, I don't think I would be here if I didn't. I got the help I needed, and today I help others. If you are thinking of doing this course, back yourself and enroll. So I want to be fairly quick through this. I didn't want to spend too long going through this with you. Just to, if you want to then take this further, just to give you a sense, I'm just going to take you, I'll just share screen and I'll duck around here, but let me just get rid of this. So basically the course, all of our courses are here and Get Trained. So if you wanted to do the life coach course, you just click on that particular course. There's a lot more information there if you want to read up. And then there is, if you pay up front, you get the biggest discount. There's the 12-month plan. There's the 24-month plan. And then there's a refresher for students who are coming back, who want to get an upgrade and want to refresh their knowledge. And if you want to schedule a call to talk about it, you can click on that button. So it's literally that simple. So the thing that I want to really summarize Breakthrough with is this. The very first thing we really looked at on Saturday was perceptions. The first thing that we have to understand is that what we do is we make concepts that are facts and we turn them through our own conditioning to become our perception. When that perception, for example, if you've got a dream, and let's say that dream, you know, as Anna was sharing earlier about getting up in front of people, if that dream has a belief that's sitting there that says, I'm not good enough to get up on stage, then what happens is that's a belief system. That belief system will stop you from actually even trying to get up on stage. And so therefore you can never really achieve that dream because the belief system is stopping you. The truth is that, you know, you've met Anna here. You know Anna is a smart woman. Can she get up on stage? Yes, she can. When she gets up on stage, will she help people to create change? Yes, she will. So her living out her dream actually creates opportunity for a lot more people. And my guess is when you live out your dream, chances are a lot of other people benefit. If not, just your children. Because as you know, children don't do what you say. They do what you do. And we as adults, as parents, our job is to be the inspiration for our children so that our children can say, that's what's possible. You know, and so you start to build their perception that anything is possible with the right mindset and the right tools. So before we wrap, I'm mindful, yes, we are over time. You could almost guarantee when you do anything with me, we're going to go over time. But we're only 10 minutes over time, but I'm going to throw it over to you. Does anyone have any questions, any ahas, or anything they want to share before we wrap for the afternoon? So any shares? Okay.
I'm going to go, everyone. I'm so sorry.
Cool. Awesome, Anna. Thank you for your great contributions and look forward to seeing you on stage.
Thank you, and wishing you all the best. And thank you so much.
You're welcome. Cool. I'll wrap it there. So thank you, everyone, for attending. Thank you for coming into this. Thank you for focusing your attention and your time on you. I'll make sure that we put this into a recording and I'll send you an email so you can rewind this back and watch any little bits that you want more detail on. And have a wonderful, delightful Sunday. And thank you again from myself and everyone who you can't see who helped to make this possible. So thank you to everyone.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, Rick.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was awesome. Thank you.
Cool.
Have a great day.
Yeah.
Bye, folks.
Bye-bye.
Hi, thank you.
See you.
Bye.